if you still want to beat up or murder or kill, trust me, I was there. Like the people that hurt you, then you're definitely not there. Because like you want to get to a point where they have no control of you. Like I hire coaches, I hire therapists, I hire people because I want to be the best version of myself. And I really believe that it's an ongoing and continual process. We can't do a lot of these things alone. We need accountability. If you break your arm, are you going to try and fix it yourself? Even if you're a doctor, you're going to still go see a doctor. Like.
Today's guest is Justen Arnold, active father of 3, husband, best-selling author, and movement and life optimization coach, a survivor of severe childhood sexual and physical abuse, attempted murder, and severe trauma. Justen is on a mission to take care of all people, whether it's family, individuals, or acquaintances, through his holistic philosophy regarding physical, nutrition, mental, and spiritual well-being. He believes that if people have access to the best tools and knowledge in a sympathetic environment, they will be able to achieve their fullest human potential. Welcome, Justen.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you having me on here. So, especially it's always cool to connect with people on different sides of the world. So thank you again.
So what is one of the most courageous things you have done? I mean, I've obviously just read, your bio, so I would imagine you'd find it hard to pick one, because I would imagine they're all courageous.
I feel like every day that I wake up, I'm looking for different boundaries and things to always live my best life. And now that I have 3 children, it's setting those examples. But for me personally, the most courageous, I think, the things you mentioned there in the beginning, overcoming trauma and abuse, facing it head on as men can be challenging. Sometimes we look at it a weakness to even talk about it. But the point that you can talk about it, you can hear it again on somebody announce it on a podcast. And then I'm not telling everybody to write a book, but that's what I ended up doing to share my story from the male perspective. It unleashed so much. And so I think that gave me my greatest reward, because one, it's kind of like, man, you realize how I wasn't really fully giving and receiving in my life. And then also like it was limiting my capacity to do other things in my life. Like it even had, I didn't realize there were parts of me that still had some insecurity attached. But once I released that, it's like, and shared that even with the world in the book. And then it was limiting the fact that like by sharing it in a book, like the amount of people that have been able to help. So I would say, the overcoming that has led to so many things, both personally and professionally. I believe we all have something in our life, in our past, that maybe we may not want to talk about or think about, but whether we're consciously thinking about it, it's there and it's affecting us, but we can turn it into a positive, especially if it's those things that were completely out of your control. And there's so many, like what happened to me, have happened to other people. And we got to know that it wasn't our fault, and that we can really take control of the situation in a variety of ways. The other tip I'll give on that one too, because I could talk all day, is just, it's a lifelong process of continually growing. So just always keep that in mind. It's just, I'm good now. No, it's always going to be a process. So, and you can just grow through it and from it.
Especially childhood sexual abuse, especially as a man. I mean, I'm a survivor too. And for me to openly talk about on my podcast, I never thought I'd ever talk about my sexual abuse, but here I am talking about it as well. And especially from a man's point of view, there's a lot of more stigma, a lot of more shame. And I think it's really absolutely courageous that you have done that and you've opened yourself up, had a lot of trauma, and you've written a book. So absolutely helping yourself and helping others in the meantime. And like you say, it is a case of it's evolving every single day. You just can't do the work and then you think it's done. It's a case of keep on doing that work.
I released a lot of tension when I started putting pen to paper and then rereading my words.
And I think that's the thing. Putting it on paper is actually seeing it in black and white. And actually, that's what I've done as well. I've written my first draft of my book, and it's kind of a healing as well. Do you find that?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, whether you write a book or whoever, like, don't put that pressure on yourself. Like it was kind of more like it went for me from like somebody put the idea in my head from an I can't that I had to, and I just felt encouraged by something bigger than myself. But yeah, writing. I mean, I always have journaled off and on. This is the stigma of men too. Like I remember I started writing and journaling just because of the in my young, like probably when I was like 12 or 13. But then I got made fun of and called a girl, and so I stopped
Mm.
doing it. And like, man, who knows what could have come up? Like the silly things boys do to other boys that like there's nothing girly about writing. Like look at all the great male authors. I mean, there's great female ones as well. But yeah, when I started writing
Absolutely.
about it's so crazy, right? But like when you're 12 and you have two older brothers picking on you, and then you have other people. So, anyways, I digress. So the writing this was like, man, and I found layer, and this is where I talked a little bit about layer. There's layers and levels and to everything. Like one, it was like when I started writing, oh, this is refreshing. And then when I started reading it a little bit, not full on yet, I hadn't read the whole thing. And then when I finally read like the final thing before like,
Hmm.
went to editing, there were a couple chapters in there. So if you read it, like if you've read it or if you plan on reading it, like you'll see like chapters 3 and 4 were really challenging. I had to pause, take a break, and come back to it the next day. But now when I can read my book 100 times and fine, those chapters got a little emotional. But there was another layer and level of like, ah, and there's so much that came out of just writing and reading. One thing I found, like I've always been, for those that don't know me, and like I've always been like since for as long as I can remember, I just want to go out in this world and serve and love, and I can go on why that is. But
Mm.
long story short, I've always just wanted to help. Like I had a very like negative thought of money early on. I don't have that anymore, but all I want to do is like, what's the purpose of my planet? Well, there's got to be purpose. And I was like, well, it's got to be a reason I was born. And then I started looking up those facts, and I was like, well, okay. At the end of the day, I feel really good helping people, so I just want to do that. And so, like, for as long as I can remember, I've always been a giver, and I kind of realize why now. But I wasn't until writing this book how I wasn't fully letting people in my life, like my wife and my kids. I was like, I'll give you a small example. I would always give them hugs, but I wasn't really taking the chance or the time to just slow down. And I could blame my ADD all day long, but in reality, I just wasn't slowing down to receive the hug. And for those that have no idea what I'm talking about, next time you hug somebody, pause. Don't just give it or receive it by like just breathing it in. Actually feel their arms around you. And men, you can do this and not be demasculinated from it. It's a very cool experience. And some of you like, oh, I've been doing that for years. Great. I'm 41 and just figured this out. So like I'm sharing this information if you haven't figured this out, because like wow, writing this book got me to take my marriage to another level, my love for my kids, my health, and like
Mm.
because it's like it's all cyclical. It's the yin and the yang. We can't just continually give and live. And like as people abuse, especially below the age of 7, I think the science shows that like it really messes with your central nervous system, your processing
Yeah.
of different emotions and things like love. So we were, for lack of a better term, like thrusted in a very negative way what love, what emotion, what physical attention was. So it's like you had to almost relearn what all that meant. And yeah, and writing was a very therapeutic process for me. I would say out of everything, like I've had therapy, I've had a ton of different ways to seek out help. But I say for me personally, the best avenue I've seen and the biggest release from a lot of my trauma was just writing. Not just in the book. I still journal. I've been doing that for years. I even created a journal because I saw such an importance that for free that like if you read
Mm.
my book, there's a link at the end. So not really a shameless plug because I get nothing wrong. It's just I was like, here. I started doing it for my clients here in the gym, and I was like, I'm just going to throw that in free for people at the end of my book because writing is very. And I always tell people like, well, I don't know what to write. Just like brain dump. Just write what's ever on your mind. It could be
Absolutely.
some of my days are like that. Like this morning, I wrote some things that it wasn't the most exciting. It's not a movie or anything, but it actually just gets a nice little release, and it's a good way to form some discipline in the morning and do anything instead of just chug the coffee and rush off to work.
I totally agree with you because I journal as well. And it's like getting everything out. I, for myself, feel it frees my brain, it frees my mind for other things,
Yes.
emotions and
Yeah.
everything. Just get it out. I journal every day as well.
I said, I don't know about women, but I can speak for men. Like, I know, like, we think we could just suck it up, man it up, and like we can just wish it away. But at the end of the day, sometimes we got to write it away. We got to release it in other ways. We got to tell a friend. We got to share. Like, we need as men, and I talk about this in chapter 5 of my book about toxic masculinity. We got to be okay with sharing feelings, crying. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, I think we need to get over these things. We can still be a man, and whatever terms we define as what a man is, which I do give my opinion on that. But I think manhood also needs to be about feelings and emotions too. We should just have like one or two, you know.
And I agree, absolutely. Men need to open up. I mean, there is a lot more men opening up right now, but it's
Yes.
taken a while. And like you say, yeah, people are told to man up, suck it up. What for? Showing emotions is not weak. And I think it's a healthy lifestyle for a man to have emotions, show emotions, and talk to other men. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more with you.
It's therapeutic, and it's parasympathetic in different ways. So it's like, I would say, man, would you never get a massage, or would you ever like just take a nap, and they'd be like, yeah, of course I would. I was like, well, then why won't you cry? Like, it's similar stress response. It releases stuff. It's like getting a massage, sitting in a hot tub, you know. Like, I say in my book as a joke, I was like, what if somebody told you can never poo again? Like, that hurts. Like, that eventually something bad's gonna happen. So it's just like that. That's what happens when we hold our emotions, and something bad eventually happens, and we just unleash, and we lose our temper or something like that. So if you find yourself losing your temper on your wife or your kids a lot, maybe part of it could be, I mean, it could be something deeper, but it could also just be, are you allowing yourself varying levels of emotions to take place, especially in front of people?
What took you on your journey of life optimization, coach? And is this naturally because of your experiences you fell into this?
So yeah, I started out just as like a trainer, movement specialist, working on like personal training and designing workouts. And I always really just, well, I like helping everybody. I really found a niche with helping people that had limitations, and I really enjoyed teaching people how to move better. And then that increased a lot of my clientele, which is the majority of my clientele now, is like, think like, what do you do after physical therapy, or what do you do in connection with a chiropractor, so you don't have to always return back to these injuries or these places. Injury prevention. Think like strength conditioning, but from like, I'm really specializing movement. So I work with a lot of people who have had surgeries, or had lots of injuries, and we're just trying to get them back to the best version of themselves while setting limits, and hopefully not return to those injuries. I mean, I could tell you story after story of people that have had knee, back, or anything else, which led to like, okay, I realized when my appendix almost burst back in 2010. Yeah, 2010, because it was around the year that basically I had meningitis 2 weeks later, 2 weeks prior to me getting married, got married, and then a month later, my appendix almost burst and I had to be removed. And I used to
don't do it by halves.
But yeah, like, and then I realized my whole gut health just changed. I started learning more, and I got really bad information from some doctors about eating more dairy-filled yogurt. And I'm like, what is going on? That made it worse. And so just realizing about the gut microbiome, and then I started getting into nutrition. That's where that came from. Like, but like this is where like my title, Purpose Through Pain. A lot of like these things, if you start to find a reason for it and start to search a little deeper, and which really now I just look at my gut, even though it doesn't have an appendix, and the appendix regulates your gut microbiome, your gut bacteria, and most people know like the importance of that. If not, like, that's huge. Like, we know like the gut they're really starting to refer now as like your first brain, because it controls more of this and this down there. So if you don't have proper gut microbiome, well, like, think about everything else, like mental health, all that stuff. So quality, real food, high nutritious food is like my thing. Anti-inflammatory eating, like, so that's where I started studying nutrition, got certified in nutrition, and it just led me down this like life optimization. So like, I was always looking, it's like, well, I'm pretty much at this point like life coaching people, but I'm not like certified or qualified. So I found a pathway that like really just encompasses like my holistic approach, because some people want to know that you're titled, and not that I wasn't technically qualified, but it's nice to have those certifications and go to and go to school and things like that. So yes, my title is life optimization coach, but yes, I'm a movement expert. I like to say I'm an anti-inflammatory nutritionist. However you want to look at it, I'm a nutritionist. I'm going to teach you how to eat well, not necessarily to lose weight, but if you eat well and you eat more the way that I coach and teach, you're going to lose weight, but you're also not going to like starve yourself either. So most of my clients find out they're eating more than ever. So that's what I do. I just optimize people's
Mhm.
lives. It doesn't like mean I'm going to live a good life. It's like, how can we go from good to great? Like, I really believe I'm 41. I'm working with people in their 60s and 70s that their words, like, they're they're in better health and shape now than they were 20 years prior and things like that. So it's like really like we get these ideas and thoughts that are put in our head by society or our environment that said, once I reach this point, I'm
Mm.
this. And like, we just need to, like, we're all different. We're all similar, but we're all different. We're all our unique own individual. And we have to like take everything with a grain of salt. Even the information I give, like, take it and take some of the meat, maybe leave some of the bones. Maybe you don't agree with me 100%, but there's always something to the information we get. Like, if somebody says at age 80, you're going to be in a wheelchair, you continually hear that story over and over again, or if you continually say,
Mm.
I don't have time for that, or I'm too tired, or I'm too old for that, all these things affect like this, and then it affects your external. So like, they've actually done studies on the I'm too old for that. They've done studies on, like, if you keep saying I'm too old for that, your body and your brain and even your skin starts to age at a quicker rate. They did a long-term study on that. So it's like, just be careful with your
Yes, definitely.
words. Yeah, and this is something I teach to
Mm.
everybody, especially my kids. I read books that talk about like reframing your sentences and your words. It doesn't mean telling a lie. Just like there's different perspectives to every situation, and just to rethink about the words that are coming out of your mouth. Think more positive, think more affirmations. And yes, those are all very important things.
Yeah.
And that's what I've done. Like, otherwise I could, if you read my book, I could have set a million different limitations on myself and I would not be where I'm at in my life.
How can one understand and navigate life-changing experiences? The thing is, for the listeners, for themselves, how can they help themselves to keep a healthier mental health as well? Because that's all encapsulated. It's not just about the exercise, it's about the mental health as well.
Taking it minute by minute, day by day, I'd say being kind to yourself is one
Uh-huh.
really big point. The reason I say that is the more people I work with, they beat themselves up a lot. Like, say they are down a weight loss journey and they have one piece of pizza and they go, oh, well, I just ruined my. If you've been doing good 80, even 70% of the time, and you eat like one meal,
Mm-hmm.
most people I find too that have what they think is a bad day because they had a cupcake and a pizza at a summer party, their caloric intake for the day was actually below normal because they beat themselves up, that they starved themselves. So idea like, what I'm saying is be kind to yourself, and like, every day is a new day. Really, these statements you heard as a kid, believe in them. Like, because like, maybe you didn't drink enough water, and I'm like, well, my diet's over. I may as well just go back to where I was. It's long term, daily, incremental steps. I would if
Mm.
you live by that scale too, especially if you're lifting weights and you live, your weight's going to fluctuate from day to day, hour by hour. Say you're dehydrated or maybe you drink a lot more water, that could vary. Like, just be kind to yourself and just pick one thing. And when you really get good at that one thing, maybe you pick a second thing. If the one thing's easy and you think you can take on more than one thing, go ahead. Just know you don't have to do everything at once. You don't have to do the exercise, get the nutrition right, and go see a psychologist and get the mental health. That's going to be overload for most people. Maybe not everybody. Maybe you're superhuman. I'm where I'm at because I've added daily things, and after I feel I've got it, which is usually like where it becomes a habit, like brushing your teeth, and I don't have to think about it, it's just happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, my morning routine, I could go on all day, but it didn't start where it was. It started with, man, I know I need to get up, moving around, so I could get more stuff done before my kids wake up. Okay, let's just start out with 10 minutes of movement. Okay, so that's what I started. And then after a couple of weeks, I started adding, I knew writing and reading were like, I wanted a journal. I wanted to do all these things. And I actually tried it. And I'm like, man, it was becoming
Yes.
stressful and overwhelming. And so it started to help me understand people that are trying to go on a weight loss journey. So for me, then I just kept adding one thing. And now, like, my morning routine is a lot of different things that I do within an hour's time. And I'll tell you this, me waking up a little bit earlier to get that routine makes the rest of my day better, makes me ready to rock and roll. And by being a little bit disciplined for a little bit of time in the morning and a little bit of time at night, it gives me a fuller day and a fuller life. And I'll tell you this, a lot less stress. Like, I grew up in a very stressful, scarcity mindset kind of household. And this is no
Mm.
offense against my parents. I hear it's the generation, the older I get, a lot of people My parents are in their 70s, to give you an idea. A lot of yelling, a lot of spanking, a lot of lost tempers, a lot of fighting. I had to kind of make sure that that wasn't in my parenting because it was ingrained in me for 18 years, you know? So
Absolutely.
I had to do a lot of healthy practice because we don't understand like how much is ingrained into our central nervous system. Like I always say this, especially if you're a parent, you know, your kids learn by what they see more by what they than what by what you say, and we're all know what that means. Like you can tell your kids a million times they'll never do it,
Mm,
but they'll watch you. And if you don't know how well they're watching you, ask them what they think about you. That's a hard question for a lot of parents to ask because you don't want to know sometimes. But like, or like, you know,
yes.
ask them to write it down. And I love it, but some parents may not like it. Like in our kids' school, and I hope more schools do this, they asked them to write. Like my dad or my son did something for Father's Day, like what he thought about his dad and different things he thought about his dad. And I got emotional. I actually cried when I read it, like, because you don't really know what they
Oh,
see and like some of the things that really mean a lot to
mm,
them that you don't realize. And it's like, ask them. And if you feel guilty about asking these questions and you're not sure what the response is or you're not looking forward to it, then there you go. Then there's your answer right there too. I think, you know, your kids are going to really
absolutely.
witness you in every aspect. I'm seeing it. I'll give you another example. So my daughter's 12, she'll be 13 in August. So she's about to reach puberty probably any day now. Probably when my wife's not around, I hear that's what happened. She's starting to pick up things, and you know, you hear it like, oh man, she's just like her mother, or she's just like, or he's just like his father, and you start to see why,
Mm,
and like you start to even see the resemblance. Like growing up, my daughter has a lot of we're in a biracial. My wife's black, I'm white for those that are listening,
mhm,
and but our kids are
mhm.
biracial. But like my daughter, from like basically like the chin up, like or lip up, looks like she's even got like, even though she's got brown eyes, like this is all like. But as she gets older, it's funny. Like, oh, she looks just like Alexis. That's my wife's name, and like she kind of does. But she also starting to pick up her mannerisms, her voice, even certain things, even the way my wife talks to me sometimes. My wife's tough on me, rightfully
Oh,
so. Not going to throw my wife under the bus. She's a great woman, but like, but like my daughter starts talking to me the way my wife does sometimes. And my wife's like, "You can't talk to me like that." And like, so it's like things like that. They really pick up. That's a
mm,
funny occurrence. If you feel you're doing a good job teaching your children and spending time and investing, and like at the end of the day, like I've already kind of told my kids, like I know it might sound morbid, but I kind of told my kids like when I
mhm.
die, this is what I want to see. And I think it's a healthy conversation. I think we need to be more comfortable with these kinds of
Yes.
conversations. But like I'm all about life and growth, and I'm a big nature guy. We go camping. We're going camping again this weekend. Just went last week to the
Mhm,
Thousand Islands here for those that are familiar in America. I want to be like, I want life to continue after me. So I literally want to be like my ashes will be buried where a tree grows. And on that tree, I would
mhm,
ideally, I didn't tell them this, but like I'll say it here. Like I want to be known. Yeah, I'd like to know that I've helped a lot of people, but I just want to be known as like a helper and a servant of people, and that I was the best father and husband I could ever be. And that's really what I'm striving for, and looking at that and holding myself accountable until growing personally and professionally, things and that. And I think that's
mhm,
really what matters because, and these are the conversations I have with them as far as like, you know, how am I doing? I think,
mhm.
you know, even when I make a mistake, I'm not going to lie. I'm a dad. I've lost my temper. I'm sorry I lost my temper in that. I think it's okay to apologize to your kids, rightfully so, as long as it's worth it. Like, if you scream and yell at your kids, especially because you need to apologize for that because they're learning that behavior. But I apologize. Hey,
Yes.
sorry, I lost my temper there. But here's why I got upset. That behavior of yours doesn't discredit it. This is the behavior that I need to see change. Here's how I need that behavior change. So I go over like there was a rhyme and a reason. I might have should have just taken some breaths, sort of calmed down,
Absolutely.
maybe walked out of the room.
Mhm,
It doesn't mean you still can't be a
mm,
parent, doesn't mean you can't coach, but you kind of lose credibility when you scream and yell at their face. Like look at yourself
mhm.
even in a mirror, like how you might have responded to a person screaming and yelling, and tell me what you see. I did that once and I looked crazy and I looked ugly. And I'm like, if I was a kid on the other side of this, I wouldn't listen to that guy. I wouldn't respect that guy. So, and so I made this little, here's my tip. And it wasn't severe, but it's something I really wanted to work on. And I realized it was a better way to get my kids to better develop in their behaviors that I wanted to see change and improve by just coaching them through it because I realized I'm more of a coach as a father. And so I
Mhm,
did this little thing and I wanted them to see it because one, they were my accountability partner. Two, they see that dads can continually improve. It doesn't mean we hit a pivotal point and we're not our kids superior. We're more their coach. We're not their dictator. We need to get that across. But so I
absolutely.
I had this X chart that I started doing of like how many days I go without my temper, and I started getting X's, and then it became a cool little fun thing in the house. And I got that just by, I give that to clients about like, whatever their health goal might be. Like, hey, every day that you say somebody, let's just make something up. Say you love, nothing wrong with donuts. I eat them occasionally too, but like say you've got an addiction,
Yeah.
like a problem, like you're having 5 a day. And X every day you don't have a
Mm-hmm.
donut or something. I don't know. I'm just making this up. Hopefully I'm not shaming anybody, but like at the end of the day, like if you have something that is controlling you more than you're controlling it, start a next chart. It's the easiest thing, and have some accountability if there's somebody in your house, and then you could have some continual discipline. And once it becomes a habit, you can get rid of the X chart, and you'll just see a lot of things improve in your life.
Great tips to anyone listening. I'm all for it. Absolutely some great things to take on board. And I know you're on a mission to help people through your holistic philosophy regarding physical nutrition, mental health, and spiritual well-being. I think you've taken me through that, but take me a little bit more through that.
So like, every client is unique. Like I said, every person. So when we get in here, like our approach is definitely different. I still get a lot of people, hey, I want to lose weight by this and this date. I still want to lose a lot of weight. I want to, we still get a lot of the weight loss, and we get a lot of kids now too, interesting enough. And I'm even getting kids like Asperger's and other situations like that, which is real fun. And we don't set limits. I've got a kid who was born with a partial cerebellum, for example. I've been working with therapists for years, and we've seen massive improvement in just the 2 months, according to his mother. And I think part of that is he's just a human. He's a kid. I'm in this belief he was born this way for a reason. It's not a limiting factor. It's just a different way. And so I just had to find a unique way. The kid's he's doing things that he's never done before that were probably people thought he couldn't do. I don't know. I'm not in their heads, but kids doing lunges, for somebody with a partial cerebellum, to give you an idea, like his spatial awareness, his sense of balance, those things are off. He's doing a balance beam I got over here in the gym now. Like he's doing single leg deadlifts, like things that are hard for, a lot of people. And here he is, like, who didn't think it was possible. So we just take everybody uniquely. They walk through our door, or whether we're doing it virtually, because I work with people all over the world. It's like, we just have a conversation. So back to the weight loss, I always ask, why do you want to lose weight? Some people like, I don't know, like almost like society told me to. Like, well, I was like, why do you want to
exactly
lose it? Like, what are your goals? Like, once you lose it, what are you going to do then? I think that's probably why people have a hard time continuing the journey, because they haven't established the point of it other than it's healthy and their doctor told them to, or there's like somebody else yelling in their ear. Like, what is the importance, and what are you going to do after you lose that weight? If you have those already kind of planned out or thought about in your head, and especially written down, like, I want to lose weight so I can play with my kids more every day after school. Specifically, I want to be able to throw a baseball, run in soccer. If you start writing down specifics on what you're going to do and why you're going to do it with some deep-seated reasons, it's not about the weight loss anymore. It's like, how quickly can I get this girl or guy to be more active in their child's life? Or maybe it's, a girl you want, that you think you just can't even ask a girl out or a guy out. Or maybe it's to be able to, your goal is to be a public speaker, but you're not confident in your own skin. And so like, and then we could also talk about nutrition, and then we could also talk about, the life coaching aspect, because they're having the confidence, so it's not like if somebody comes in, oh, I want to lose weight. Okay, we're going to design this, or we're going to copy. Every program's different. Everybody's approach is different. And so whether it's online or in person, we're developing a personalized program. So if it does come down to where we're doing training, then we're training. And then, if it comes down to where we got to work with nutrition, then we're adding that too. And if it comes down to where we have to have like bi-weekly or monthly phone calls, then we're doing that too. So it just depends on the situation. And it's really just spending about an hour with them, having a conversation and getting to know this person, because we also want to build trust with them. We want to spend some time. This isn't some short thing. It's a lifelong process, but I also don't want them to rely on me for the rest of their life. Ideally, from a financial standpoint, that'd be awesome. But like, that's not what I'm in the business of. Like, I'm in the business of like getting people to the point where they don't need me. And if they occasionally got to check in, that's great. Because I want to be able to work with more individuals, and with my approach, it takes a very individualistic approach. Now we do have a few people on our team here now too, which is great. But it's along with developing them, and it's just literally like, one thing I like people to do is just like, go home, close your eyes, and think about the most unimaginable best version of your life. And I bet there's limitations even in that. And then kick those out. Once you kick those out, go do it
Yes.
again. And then just like get crazy. Like get as crazy as like you're riding a unicorn through the forest. I don't care. Like whatever it takes for you to get out of like the very tunnel vision that we have that has been developed again by our experiences, by our environment, by culture, by the world, by TV, by commercials, by all these different things. I mean, there's all this
Definitely.
information out here, but we're still not. I feel like we're at the capability of being the smartest, most intelligent of human races, but I don't think we're there because I think not necessarily we're consuming the wrong information. We're consuming so much and little bits and pieces of it that our brains are becoming overwhelmed with that we're not remembering anything. And like we need to like just focus on what's important at the time and just really dive in. And that's why sometimes it takes hiring a coach. I hire coaches. I
Yeah.
hire therapists. I hire people because I want to be the best version of myself. And I really believe that it's an ongoing and continual process. I look at it this way, like we can't do a lot of these things alone. We need accountability. If you break your
Yeah.
arm, are you going to try and fix it yourself? Even if you're a doctor, you're going to still go see a doctor. Like, so it's like, I think we need people in our lives to help us improve the areas of our lives. So it just starts with having that conversation.
What resources do you recommend, daily tips, tools to anyone that wants to start overcoming severe trauma and maybe struggling? I know it's kind of a bit of
a we talked about one of them, and it's like literally start writing. I'm a big believer in like writing, figuring out like what resources you're comfortable with. If you're going to go seek therapy, just seek the right ones. There's just like any business, there's ones that are in it for the business and there's in it to help. Do your research. There's even a lot of free resources out there too. You'd be surprised. There's online free resources, especially if you're a believer. If you're in a faith community, a lot of them like whether it be Christianity or whatever, like a lot of these have stuff with it in their facilities where they have like free counseling, like especially marriage counseling, but even just free therapy or low discount stuff. So don't put money on these things. But yeah, I would just say write down what start writing, and then maybe look to alternative sources. If you're married, and you've never shared some things, you need to find a way to do it. Your relationship will open up a billionfold. I don't even know, like the level.
Yeah.
If you're worried about your spouse judging you or not liking you or whatever, I mean, I pray that doesn't happen. I highly doubt that's going to happen. I'll tell you this from personal experience. I think my wife appreciated and loved me. I felt sorry, definitely not, but just like she's more sympathetic and more caring and just more understanding. More understanding is a great word.
Yes, definitely.
Of me. And so sharing, if you're not married, find somebody. Like if you think you're good or if you're probably not. If you still want to beat up or murder or kill, trust me, I was there. Like the people that hurt you, then you're definitely not there. Because like you want to get to a point where they have no control of you. Like that's where I'm at. That's where my initial, like I want to get to a point where like they have no control over me, and that stems from again being controlled maybe. But like I want to get to the point where I'm praying for them, I'm wishing them the best. And if you think you'll never get there, I'll tell you this: if you ever do, and I pray you do, like, oh my goodness, that is such a release. I mean, there was a time where I wanted to see them dead. I wished harm upon them. And I know there's people that can relate to that probably still relate to that. I've listened to other podcasts of people that have bigger names than me that still have a lot of anger and hate. And I'm like, and I get it. It's a process and there's layers and levels, and we're all on a different journey with things like this. And just be okay with wherever you are in your journey. You don't have to be here or there or wherever. Be where you're at. Just continually grow through it. If my book is a resource, the cool thing about my book, what I did was at the end of each chapter, I offer like the 3 main takeaways, especially for people like me that sometimes have ADD and get distracted. The 3 main takeaways, and then I have Q&As that you can do it on your own, but I highly encourage you do it as a group. And what I'm hearing some people do, they're forming little groups for my book. And they're all reading the book, and then they're coming back and going chapter by chapter to answer the Q&As. So there's things like that, and so that's a resource. It's a lifelong process. So if you think you're good, or you don't want to
Mhm.
deal with it right now, go ahead, because you're actually limiting yourself. If you're a millionaire, maybe you could be a billionaire. If you're great in business, but you see like your marriage isn't good, your parenting isn't that great, your health is there's more to success than just what your bank account and what your title looks like. In fact, I would say that's more of an
Absolutely.
inheritance. And I talk about this. I
Mhm.
talk about like your spirituality, your faith, the internal work that you've talked about. I talk about, your fitness, your health. If that's not doing so good, I talk about your family. If these things, your relationships aren't that, if like the four things I just mentioned and only one, maybe two, if for all four areas you're not feeling pretty good about right now, there could be a connection back to some past trauma. Trust me, still room for work. So I would just really self-analyze yourself. And I think that's the key, is self-analyzation.
So where can the listeners find you online, your book? What's your
Man.
website?
Yeah, so my website is my personal website is justenarnold.com. That's with an EN, so JUSTENARNOLD.com. You can Google it. If you, for some reason, spell it an IN, I think it'll still show up. Flex with two X's, so flexxmp.com, FLEXXMP.com. That's my health and wellness, my gym, my nutrition, the life coaching that we
Mhm.
talked about. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn too. I am on TikTok, but I don't really use it like the kiddies. I literally just post up my like camping videos, and then occasionally I put up my drum videos. So I'm a percussionist, but I don't really play anymore. I think it was my first major in
Mhm.
college, but I still do like hand drums, like hand pans and stuff like that, and some djembe and stuff. So I'll post those up there in case anybody wants to see it. So I do that. That's on TikTok, and then my emails are pretty simple. Be more, because that's what I want people to be. I want to be more, the best version of themselves. Be more at justenarnold.com. So BEMORE. But if you do just like forget everything I just said, if you just typed in my name, you can even listen to past podcasts. I found a website the other day that had I've been on more than I think 30 podcasts where you just say my name and you can find almost all the podcasts I've been on. And then my book's on
Yeah,
Amazon. You can get it through my website. It's pretty much everywhere. You should be able to find me.
I'll put your links in the show notes as well.
Awesome,
So thank you
awesome.
for sharing your incredible, courageous journey with us today. And
Thank
by
you.
doing so, I know you've helped so many others, especially as a man talking about sexual abuse. Justen Arnold, thank you so much.
For sure. No, thank you for having me. And yeah, just reach out. I'm a human being. If you have any questions or want to connect, I'm here.
What's your definition of courage? Because we are Create the Courage to Be Fearless podcast. So what's your definition of courage?
Definition of courage to me is just literally never setting limitations and being the best version possible, not just for yourself, but for the world around you.